Hello and welcome to another episode of the Comics Pals Book Club. I'm your host this evening, or it's evening when we record. Whenever you listen to this, it could be whatever. I'm Tyler. I'm here with Sean. Sean, say hello.
Hello, hello.
Marco, how you
What's
doing?
up?
And Kale is here on the astral plane this time.
In spirit.
In spirit. Turns out you can't really get a astral projection to speak on a microphone, so he'll just stay with us in that way. I definitely did not want to recreate an entire stream overlay or anything like that because that would take time. Instead, I took more time to make Kale an astral form. That didn't happen. That's not what happened. But yes,
We're trying to get through the book club, so at the end, what we do is we can summon him through what we've read.
I think he's a little busy.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's a little
Yeah.
busy. I don't think he wants us to put the camera on in his current predicament.
No.
Let's just say Baron Mordo found a way to food poison one of the pals for this episode. Did I throw him under the bus there? Did I out him? Oops. That was a shitty thing for me to do.
You're on a roll, man.
I don't expect Kel to actually watch this back, so I can do whatever.
Yeah, he won't. It's
But yes, we are here for another book club, and this time we were tackling a Doctor Strange book. I wonder why we're doing that. Synergy?
Nah.
maybe there's a little movie coming out. Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, they need to show these trailers. They're showing too much in that shit. I'm like,
I know. I didn't even watch the last one.
dude, I was trying to watch a Twitch stream, and then they popped up. I'm like, oh, motherfucker. I had to mute it, and then it was a mess. But yeah, we're reading Doctor Strange The Oath. This is by Brian K. Vaughn, Marcos Martin, Alvaro Lopez on inks, Javier Rodriguez on color, and my favorite name on this list, Willie Schubert on letters. Willie Schubert sounds like an early Stan Lee creation, which is why I like it. I think it's
like a
appropriate
sidekick.
for this.
The only Willie Schubert mention on a podcast ever.
Yeah, but before we get into that, I just want to throw some plugs out there. Sean, do you want to do that instead of me fumbling over it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So if you would like to listen to our main show, whether that's live on Twitch, which you can do every single Saturday at 10:15 Eastern, or you want to hear it on YouTube, which you can do at youtube.com/comicspals, or you want to hear Pals Polls live on Twitch at 6 p.m. Eastern every single Thursday. Thank you very much, Marco. I got it. We've got a lot of great stuff going on both shows. Pals Polls is our review show where we review comics every single week for you guys. Also, we have a whole host of book clubs for you guys to check out. Last month we did Black Mirror, I believe it was, and that was pretty awesome. We've done a lot of great ones this year. We did Saga also, so a lot of great book clubs for you guys to check out on the backlog. Also, sorry, 1 second. Also, wanted to mention patreon.com/the comics pals. We've got a bunch of different tiers for you guys to access. However, you feel comfortable supporting us, we have cool things available for you. One of those is actually related to the book clubs. So we're going to be allowing I think it's the $10 tier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be allowing people at the $10 tier, I Shall Become a Pal, to influence this show. We're going to be putting up polls for you guys. So this book or that book, maybe we'll each pick one. And whichever one wins will be the book club for the month that we decide. We might even let you guys just let us know what book clubs you want us to do, and you'll get priority on that. So we've got a lot of cool stuff coming as far as the book club is concerned, and giving you guys a lot more control over the books that we actually do.
And if you're a patron, you probably watched this earlier than most people because you'll be getting this earlier. So
Yes.
rub that in people's faces, I guess. Like if you're at like the deli or something nearby, and like the guy asks you, like, what do you want in your sandwich? Be like, well, I don't care what I want in my sandwich. I got to watch a Comics Pals book club episode earlier than normies did. And then the guy would probably be very confused and just ask you like turkey or do you want Swiss? And then don't do that. That's a mess. I wouldn't do that. it's an awkward human interaction. But yeah, those are the benefits of being patrons with us. So I'm
more.
excited and I'm excited and a little scared if we put that we're giving them that power. Who knows? We'll be reading Ultimatum
Oh God.
if that's
You
the
know
case.
it.
I think I just doomed us, guys.
Onslaught, guys.
Why would you guys
Hey,
even
he's
put
good.
that
Good for
out
you,
there?
Marco. You're
This
you
is-
ready? You already read up on that one.
Marco will
right.
host it. Yeah.
Have you? I feel like you've mentioned that even before we've done, like back when we chose the book club. I feel like you've thrown Onslaught out there and we've chat on it. But
Probably, yeah. Just
yeah,
in
but you
general.
know what? You know what? We're not doing Onslaught. We're doing Doctor Strange,
There you go.
and this is one thing I didn't write down the year that this came out. Let me see if I can get that.
I think it was 2006, 2007.
Yes, 2006, 2007. So this would be right around pre-Civil War. This book would
Just
have,
about.
would have come out right on the cusp of it. It might have even overlapped a bit. So this is a story of Dr. Stephen Strange, and it's really kind of a three-person team up book where it's him, Wong, and Night Nurse trying to solve this mystery of a stolen elixir. And it kind of shoots them around New York City and trying to find down and chase down this elixir. And it's weird because one of the things that really jumped out to me with this book, and one of the things I wanted to talk about, was this really is a different Doctor Strange than, I guess, the modern day Strange. And in reading this after, reading the death of Doctor Strange, which we've talked about on Pals Pulls, and I guess more modern Strange, this is a completely different character. It feels like there is not as much of a jokiness to him. He's a lot more, I guess, removed from. He's not a people person in this at all. He's kind of a fucking asshole in this, which even like the MCU version kind of drives home. But he's still a charming asshole. He's not very charming in this, which the last page kind of confuses me, which we'll get to. But I thought that was a big deal because I can see how they needed to change Strange, even though they made him a little bit too much like Tony Stark in the MCU. But this version, Doctor Strange, the classic version of Strange, was really interesting to kind of jump back into that character for me.
He's self-absorbed, and I think I don't know that I saw too much of a, I guess, like a divergence in character necessarily. I think he can be sort of an asshole every once in a while. I think it sort of depends the situation. I think he's a bit more affectionate towards the people that are around him, whereas here he's a bit colder. He gets sort of this tunnel vision. One of the first examples is, I think in the first issue, they're in Chinatown and they're sort of looking through this old store, and he's in the middle of like looking through and trying to find this artifact, and all of a sudden these people come in, they close the door, and he doesn't even notice that Wong is in the process of fighting and taking care of them. In something like the most recent death of Doctor Strange that we've been reading, or that we had read some issues for Pals Pulls, the interaction there would have been much different. He would have jumped in to help. He would have, had some semblance of worry for his friend. And in this, he's just kind of just like, oh, well, thanks for doing that. I gotta go, and leave you to deal with your dizzy spells and leave you to deal with whatever's
Your brain
going on in your
tumor.
life. Yeah, right. Like, he's like, sorry, and that, I think, it doesn't fit with the character as we know him now, but I do think that it's an aspect of Strange that sort of still exists. The Mark Waid run a few years back, I think, sort of characterizes him in a similar way, where he's kind of standoffish, he's a bit of a jerk, and unless you're sort of on his level, he doesn't really give you the respect that you just probably deserve as a normal person.
Was that the Outer Space Strange?
That's the one where it's the like the machines and the anti magic.
Although was that Jason Aaron's run?
Oh, that might have been it. Okay, yeah, yeah.
I think they overlapped at one point, so you both might be right, but yeah.
I think it would have been that one. But yeah, that character I think can be malleable in that way and exists. In this one, it works. It's fine. It's he's not necessarily off-putting, but you do notice that he can be an asshole.
So this is like the earliest Doctor Strange anything that I've read to this point. My interactions with Doctor Strange were very limited at this time. I think the first time I ever saw him in a comic would have been in Civil War, the one panel I think that he's in, where he says that he's not going to partake, and he's just going to meditate on it. That was my only interaction with Doctor Strange.
The
So
Swiss motherfucker.
that Doctor Strange, even that Doctor Strange, which is only it's within 6 months of this, feels very different than this version of Doctor Strange. This version of Doctor Strange feels to me like it's a deliberate throwback to a version of him who's allowed to be a little bit more brash, a little bit more of a womanizer, a little bit more of a douche. And I think that Vaughn was deliberately trying to tap into that. It's just because unless it was Marvel's decision, Doctor Strange is portrayed very differently than this right after. Unless it was deliberate, I don't see why else he would be this way here and different elsewhere. And I like it, but I don't like it, I guess. It's wild to me that we're seeing him be this much of an ass after he's the Sorcerer Supreme and after you think he's learned all these lessons. He's just a douche. And the relationship that he has with Wong is too master servanty for me, which, maybe that's modern brain thing, but it's like, whoa, this was like heavy.
Well, saying that you didn't really care much for the way he was characterized in this, how was I guess, what are your overall feelings on this book before we dive deeper into it?
Yeah. So I think it's solid. I think that Brian K. Vaughan has something to say, and the premise of the book is good. It's interesting. Because of the real world applications. I think where the book falls apart is where it tries to apply the magic aspects of it to the science and have one explain the other. We'll get to what I mean by that.
Yeah.
But there are just some things that they just don't make any sense. And some of Doctor Strange's ultimate decision in this book is absurd, and it would never be made. And to me, he's the villain of this comic book.
Interesting. Okay, Marco.
I enjoyed it. It was a fun read. I don't think anything from like a panel layout or from just like a pacing perspective there was anything wrong with it. I think that was all well done. The art's really, really good. I have some issues with colors that we'll get into, but I mean, yeah, otherwise it was a good romp. Nothing exceptional, but it kept my attention. It kept me hooked enough to read it, and it's nice and short. 5 issues. You can kind of come in and then blow through it, and you come out having a good time. And I think the one thing for me was probably the villain, and we can touch on that in a little bit. But yeah, otherwise, no issues for me with regards to the story. This is something I'd probably hey, you want to read a quick Doctor Strange story? This is one.
Yeah, for me, it's like I think it's like a really solid 5-issue book, and I think it's solid because it tackles, I would say, the 2 biggest things that are important to Doctor Strange. It's the idea of hubris and the idea of science versus magic. I think those are very 2 integral themes in Doctor Strange, and this book tackles both of them simultaneously. and actually interweaves those two. So as a Doctor Strange book, yeah, I agree. I think it's like one of those books that I think you could recommend someone. Like, hey, you like Doctor Strange? Here's 5-issue book. Have fun. As opposed to like, oh, here's a long ass Jason Aaron epic. I think that was like 30 issues or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Minimum 25.
And I think it still maintains. Yeah, it feels different than the modern iteration of Doctor Strange. Even though I do think those like core elements are still there. I think the personality is a little different, but those core elements are there. I think Marcos Martin is a very classic artist. I think it is hard to not like Marcos Martin. I agree with you, Marco. I think the coloring is a little weird. This feels like early. I mean, I also might be reading. I don't know. It might be recolored in the Marvel Unlimited app or something. But this feels like early digital coloring to me.
Yeah.
Like I know Javier Rodriguez would do it much differently. I feel currently. Like I've read Untold History of the Marvel Universe, which was Marcos Martin. I believe it was Javier Rodriguez too. Much more flat. It's not this kind of coloring in this is used to add shape and form, which it makes things look kind of Play-Doh-y. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. There's like this usually like a bright spot somewhere along the body and the form where you're looking at, regardless of what it might be. There is no semblance of like a flatness. There's always this like a transitioning of color to add that depth.
Yeah. Sean, I'm kind of curious about how you feel about Marcos Martin. I say it's a classic artist, but I do feel his art can be divisive.
Yeah, for sure. Again, so I read this from the perspective of this is not supposed to be Doctor Strange right now. This is deliberately trying to look and feel like a classic Doctor Strange story. And in that context, I think that Marcos Martin works really well. I think that Doctor Strange very much feels like like a Silver Age character. And Martin's art gives me that. It echoes that with the 2006-ish era flavor as well, because there's a lot of stuff that are like, earmarks for that time. And I think it works. It didn't knock my socks off, but I do think it works. I think there are some really cool moments. One where it really, I think the coloring is carrying this moment, but it's where Doctor Strange is lit by the thunder a little later on in the book. There's some really cool moments. And I like the shots that he chooses. It feels like this was trying to be an iconic, definitive Doctor Strange story. And I think the art succeeds at that for finding the ways to show him that make him look the coolest and picking the best spots. That's not easy to do. And I think it was done well here.
Without even trying to really break the mold either in terms of panel layout or anything like that. Like I've seen Marcos Martin do some crazy ass paneling. This is very to the point. It's not, traditional 9-panel Tom King grid or anything like that, but it's nothing fancy.
Right.
The fanciest thing is Doctor Strange's cape in this whole thing.
Straightforward. It's easy to
he gets called a fancy man at one point in this book too. I'm a big Martin fan. But in terms of like Marco, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I just one of the artists that, especially now when he's colored really flat, I think that's where he sort of shines, because he brings that.
Good. Yeah.
It brings that like Silver Age sort of. Yeah. He reminds me of oh my god, I almost said Darrington. Who was the other artist on not Mitch Gerads, but for Strange Adventure? I'm blanking.
Oh,
Doc Shaner.
Yeah.
Doc Shaner, where Shaner has sort of that face structure. I think here there's a bit more. There's more lines to a lot of it, so it adds a little bit more texture to faces and to bodies. But when he's colored flat, that's sort of what I imagine is that kind of feel and look.
It's like Alex Toth by way of like European comics, if that makes sense. which that's why I love Marcos Martin. But it, you mentioned how this is more of a classic look, and the way the books, the panel layout and the drawing of it is a little more classic take on it. I think one of the classic themes it tackles in this is hubris from two ends, really. It's hubris from Doctor Strange's end and hubris from the antagonist of this book, which I think was a little lackluster, but it was Nicodemus. I don't remember his last name in it, but Nicodemus, which is
Yeah.
it was a bit of a retcon, which I had to kind of get past. The fact that the person who helped repair Doctor Strange's hands after the car accident as best as he could also went to the Ancient One and got mystical
Right.
powers, which I was like, it draws that line between like really, but also that's a very comic booky thing to happen.
Yeah.
It kind of toes the line there. But the idea of Doctor Strange is getting over his hubris. He is, learning to, as much as he can. He's still a bit of a pompous ass in parts of this, but as much as he can, he realizes, he doesn't have all the answers and he can only do so much. Whereas Nicodemus is a guy who refuses to put the blame on himself and constantly tries to, he gave up his training. He wouldn't blame himself for killing some cancer patient. So seeing that dichotomy here was a pretty good way of tackling a key Doctor Strange theme in 5 issues, in my opinion.
It very much felt like Brian K. Vaughan was trying to lay the foundation for what you could do if you were going to do like a Doctor Strange movie, how you could tell that story. It's a Doctor Strange primer. If you've never heard of or read Doctor Strange before, or you've only seen Doctor Strange in the movie, you can read this and you get a villain who is a mirror of the hero. You get a story that explains to you what the hero's about. You have the fact that it shows that he's a womanizer because of his, not a womanizer, that's kind of harsh, but like a gregarious guy who gets girls, like a James Bond type of guy through his relationship with Night Nurse. And you see that he cares for Wong, his, best friend, trusty Alfred guy. All of that stuff is just baseline Doctor Strange. And for that, even though the villain is lackluster, I think, again, it makes sense. Can you really establish this like incredibly, interesting and deep villain while also trying to tell this, primer story for Doctor Strange and interlay this, science and magic and all this different stuff? That's a lot to do in 5 issues. And I think for the most part, Brian K. Vaughan does do a good job, but there are places where I don't think it succeeds.
Yeah.
What places in particular, Sean, if I can push you a little bit?
Yeah. So one of my big issues was the idea that it felt like there were some spaces where it's like, okay, well, Doctor Strange just can't do this because he just can't. Like, he can't. They say he can't generate science tools of science.
Yeah.
Why not? Like that just seems really, really.
It's just magic
arbitrary.
rules.
Yeah. That just didn't add up. And then also, the Hitler gun, that was weird.
I love that part.
It's funny, but it's weird. But the other major one is, and this is so critical for me, is that Doctor Strange would choose not to create the cure for cancer. That I just could not really accept. That doesn't really feel true. And I think that is like it's not a hole in the story, but it left me feeling a hole. It left me feeling unresolved. It was too clean.
Okay.
I took that as, because I think before that he has a whole discussion with which is face Nicodemus about the like the Hippocratic Oath and the worth of a person over anything else, and that precedes the ultimate action on Strange's part is choosing his friend, and because his oath is not to necessarily the people who are who might need it, but to this person who he has under his care and has for the past 5 issues of this story. So for me, that kind of connected. Like I got that would be sort of the end, and that's the result of it. Especially after he falls off the building, I'm like, oh okay, the thing's gonna break, and he's gonna pick Wong because that's part of his progression and growth, and also he's had this whole conversation about protecting the life of and choosing the life of a person, because had he helped one person in the past, it would have his future would have turned out differently, and so that was sort of reflected in him saving Wong for me. So that part I think meshed well for me.
But see, the issue with that is that it wasn't that he was choosing not to focus on one person because there was a bigger picture in a way of helping people. There was a bigger picture in his career, so he was just being selfish, which is not different than him choosing to save Wong. He chooses to save Wong because he cares about Wong as a human, not because he has to save one life. Because if that was a random guy, he probably doesn't save that guy. So it's just the same selfishness playing out in a different way. For me, the reason why that whole angle falls apart is because the boundaries of the story, being a Marvel comic story, would not allow for him to ever actually choose to cure all disease. So this is a false premise to begin with, and it sets up unrealistic stakes because from the second the MacGuffin is revealed how the story will end. And I don't think that anything happened here, actually. And that's kind of the problem.
I'm going to throw this out there, and this might be a stretch.
Yeah.
But I think a majority of this book is a romance story between Doctor Strange and Wong. So hear me out. I think Doctor Strange, at his core, is a character created who is very much coded as gay without ever it being in the text. Two older men, one who looks like Vincent Price, who live in Greenwich Village together.
What ride are we on?
That is like during that time of the creation, that would have been something that happened. Greenwich Village is a part of New York City that was really kind of at the forefront of the gay rights movement at the time, especially during when Doctor Strange was created and the Doctor Strange lore progressed. There are multiple parts in this book where their relationship is referred to as a romance, jokingly, but it happens multiple times throughout it. There is a couple of moments where I think specifically the one where you have that non-magic battle between Nicodemus and Strange, where he says, "Well, Wong isn't just my servant or something, my manservant or whatever. He's also my master in a way." And then that's putting them on equal footing, which I think is kind of showing that they're not just master servant. That's not the dynamic. There is an equalness that they share together. That gets totally thrown away at the last moment of this book, where he kisses the night nurse, who I don't think there was any kind of romance going on throughout the book. But it's also a mainstream Marvel book in 2006, so of course they have to keep him coded in a way. And this is something that's been dropped from the character completely. But I think at its core, I think there is a codedness to Doctor Strange as a character, which I kind of see in this whole miniseries. And that's why he chooses Wong, because he loves him.
I think that's
really
a hard read, dude.
I can see it. I don't necessarily agree that that's sort of the subtext. I think the subtext
Couldn't get that out of my head when I was reading it. I'm like, yo, this shit's gay. This is the good gay shit.
I think that there is a love there. I don't think it's a romantic love. I think it's him genuinely caring for this person who he's otherwise seen as a servant, and realizing that this person is an actual person. And it wasn't until it was revealed that he had cancer, that he's like, wait, I
Yeah.
probably treated him like shit, and I'm gonna go through whatever ends I possibly can in order to rectify something, and in this case, curing his cancer.
What do you think, Kale? Huh?
Oh, I can't believe Kale would say such a thing. Jeez.
Wow. I didn't know you had that in you. That was really concise.
Kale concise. There was at least 5 ums in that one.
Better than the 7.
Oh boy. Yeah, I think that I would love to hear what Brian K. Vaughan would say about this part of the conversation. Just what exactly he was trying to get across, because I contend that the end of the book negates the journey that they're telling me that Doctor Strange is on. And for me, that undercut the whole rest of the story. And I could never get it out of my mind that as I was reading this, what I thought was an interesting story, and putting these two concepts against each other, and just seeing how that weighs out, knowing that it could only end one way was frustrating. In that regard, it felt too straightforward for what it was dealing with, which was supposed to be, these two big ideas.
But also, like, the more you delve into it, the more it's like, oh, what is an actual dosage of this thing? He couldn't cut that drop in half and then split it,
Right. Yeah.
And then, like, it's just like, all right, well,
But
just reading it
that's
as the text, yeah.
But the problem with it is that it does expose itself to that scrutiny because it's so basic. Like, there's not, like, any person could read this and go, wait, he couldn't solve this. He's Doctor Strange. What the hell? He got shot by a gun and it worked. He's Doctor Strange. What the hell?
It's Hitler's
Like,
gun. Yeah.
Hitler's gun.
I believe it was it's like a Walther or something like that. I used to know the type of gun Hitler had.
Just fun facts.
Yeah,
Looking up
yeah, real
Hitler's
fun
gun.
facts. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what we're doing here on the podcast?
Was it a MG42? Maybe that's what it was. All right.
All right.
I played a lot of Call of Duty World at War. Okay, that was more of a sawed-off shotgun type.
Walther P38.
That's the word. That's the one I'm thinking of, Marco. There we go. Thank you. But the idea of like that, a gun is science, essentially. It can become so evil in and of itself that it gains mystical and magical properties. I was eating that shit up. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense to me.
That was cool. That I think that an object can harness some sort of evil intent that can then be used on somebody. I'm like, okay, fine. That works for the magic end of something. You curse an object. Easy.
Yeah. And it was like Doctor Strange shows up shot, and he's like, "What managed to shoot you?" It was Hitler's gun. I was like, "Yeah, okay, yep, mm-hmm." I'm not gonna question that. That makes sense to me.
The one thing about the villain, like, the reveal was so flat, because even when they have, and I'm forgetting the guy's name, the guy all in red.
Hilt or
Brigand,
something like that.
something?
Oh, Brigand, yeah. Who I've never seen in a comic before.
But when he's like, and my master is, and then Nicodemus comes out, they're like, who's that? And you're like, yeah, you're right. Who is the fuck is that? Like, what are we doing here? That was a fart. That was a wet fart. Sorry, Cal.
The only thing I could think of that I felt like it was maybe a swerve. I think they were building it to be that the person that was fighting him was the guy who he denied cancer help to. I think it was being built as that, and then it swerves like, oh, it was the guy you thought was good the whole time. But again, I don't think it hits that well as a reveal.
Yeah, exactly.
I think once we actually get into the character and we learn more about him and we get the whole villainous, mustache twirling, MO at the end there, I was like, all right, okay, I get it now. But yeah, I agree. The reveal was kind of lackluster.
Yeah. And again, all those things work in a very basic way. But I think, if you're looking for a little more depth from your comics, this one doesn't really give you that. But it is fun. And that part of it offsets some of that lack of depth. Like I really enjoyed Night Nurse throughout this. I've never read a comic book where Night Nurse was a character. Most of the time she's just, if she's in it, she's just hanging around. She's not really a main part of the story. So it was cool to see someone else be a part of this in an interesting way. And I like the Doctor Strange is almost a god. He's not really presented that way in this comic book. That's more of a modern thing with Doc, but he's got godlike powers, and she's just a nurse. You know what I'm saying? But she's ready to strap up just as much as he is, just as much as Wong is, and I like that. Would she have survived this situation? Probably not, but that's okay.
Yeah, as soon as that tentacled demon grabbed her ribcage is done. I don't care.
Yeah.
Bro, as soon as the Stark droids, security droids popped out, that's it. They would have squashed her. Goodbye. Yo, and then the fact that her costume was hanging on like a thing, she's like, wait, let me get changed.
Yup.
Boom.
What are you
Nurse
doing?
Ratchet costume. Here we go.
That's the lazy ass Halloween costume, Night Nurse.
But I like her. I like her as like the kind of the third character in this, the third main character. She adds Doctor Strange, especially previous to this, was a very like he would go into psychedelic worlds and dimensions and shit, and like that's the stuff you would read if you were on peyote or some shit like that. Where this is a much more ground level Doctor Strange, which I think since then we've gotten plenty of. We've gotten a street level Strange. But I think up until this was kind of a change of pace for him, and adding Night Nurse to it to kind of ground him. Because even Wong is still he's a little out there. I wouldn't say Wong is a grounded character. Night Nurse adds that kind of human, earthbound element to this that I enjoy. And also like there is this whole book really feels like a Sherlock Holmes book. I know they make that reference throughout it, but it really is Wong as Watson and Strange as Sherlock, or like Wong kind of fixes things in the background while Strange is busy thinking too much in the foreground. It's a typical Sherlock Holmes dynamic, and I don't know too much about Sherlock Holmes, so I don't know if there is a analogous character for Night Nurse, but that's how it is there.
Oh, yeah, great anecdote, Kale.
Oh god!
Turns out he knew Sherlock Holmes while living in England. Yeah, he met him at one point.
Just like I met Tupac. So I don't know what to say, man.
It's your Wildcat, Marco.
Yeah, that's my costume for Halloween. That's it.
So
that's blackface. Don't do that.
Wow. That's what we're doing. So the issue where we get the whole explainer on Nicodemus and his whole story.
Sean, not to stop you, but do you keep thinking of that Dave Chappelle sketch whenever you see
yes,
Nicodemus?
Yes, I do. I absolutely do. Negrodamus, yes.
Yeah. I couldn't not read it throughout it.
Absolutely, please. So whenever they explain Nicodemus's story, I just felt like it went on for a while, and at the end of that, Doctor Strange is just like, "Yeah, all right, I've had enough of this," and he bashes his face into the mirror or whatever. And it's like, dude, you made us, the reader, suffer through this dude's whole life story when you could have just bashed his face. Thanks a lot, Doc.
I think that's the most post MCU thing in this book. You can't tell me that you wouldn't see that in some Doctor Strange or Guardians of the Galaxy movie where like the villain explains something way too long and then just gets slapped for it. Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, I definitely can see that.
The real estate is like
exactly.
That was a good half of a 5-issue. Half of an issue of a 5-issue series.
Right. It's way more damaging to do something like that in a comic book than it is in a movie. And we didn't need all that. Like, we could have, there's a way to do what they did here that doesn't require you to use up all this real estate. And I think that, again, knowing you only have 5 issues, you got to pad that out. This felt like a pad session.
And it was in issue 4. It was 8 pages in issue 4.
Yeah,
You just did the math
rough.
there.
Yeah, I just counted them out.
I will say there is one page turn in this book that really was like, yo, what the fuck? That's fucked up. It's where Doctor Strange says, so Wong asks Doctor Strange, so where does our investigation begin? Strange says, in the most uncharted and forbidding realm of them all. Flip the page to Welcome to the Bronx. Really?
Yeah. That was so good.
Really?
Bro,
You
you
don't
been
like
to the Bronx?
I pretty much was raised right next to the Bronx. I used to go to the Bronx
know
all the time. I have family
You
there.
get it. You get it.
It's not like he's on Grand Concourse or something like that. Like,
Might as well be. Who knows?
Listen,
that's
bro,
risky. That might be
Doctor
risky, but then I
Strange
get
is
it.
a resident of New York City. He knows that the Bronx is unsafe.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck sending a guy from Greenwich Village to the Bronx by foot.
Dude.
Yeah,
You ever been to Riverdale?
Riverdale's
Yeah.
different than the Bronx. That Riverdale's its own section.
No, dude. Triggerdale. You know about that?
Oh my god.
Come on.
That's like
You know about that?
That's like south and then towards like water and stuff.
Riverdale's
think
where like
that-
all the old money is, though. Like if Doctor
the
Strange
nice
was going
part.
anywhere in the Bronx, he'd be in Riverdale. Honestly, certain parts of Riverdale, but
Well, all right. Okay, that's what you say. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was a funny little moment. I actually think it helped to bring it closer down to earth too. The fact that it was in the Bronx, just knowing the Bronx is like the earth, you know what I'm saying? Like that's a raw earth right there. And I just felt like it kind of brought the book down a little.
I like that. I think that's one of the strengths of the book, that it is a more grounded Doctor Strange book, and it's not going throughout all these dimensions to fight Dormammu or Nightmare or anything like that. And yeah, they tease that in this. You get a nice page of Dormammu drawn by Marcos Martin and like a cool Nightmare page. But
Yeah.
it's just like a red herring. And I like how we got to get a little bit of a sampler of the Doctor Strange rogues gallery in this without actually having to delve into that whole world. And really, it's dealing with a pharmaceutical rep and a robber. Like that's who Doctor Strange is fighting in this.
I kind of wanted them to do a bit more with that, the pharmaceutical end aspect, because it looked like there was a larger message that there was a message that I think Vaughn was trying to get across with regards to medicine and the manufacturing and all that stuff, and even Nicodemus towards the end, he's like, oh, we should have found like a natural way, all that kind of stuff. Like there was probably something he wanted to say, and he didn't get a chance to, and we get all of these other like higher ups and execs within the company, and it felt like a lot that could have been done, and then it just all collapses cleanly in like one panel where it's like, oh, I have this memo and it got sent out and we've dissolved everything.
You can say that with the lens of the opioid epidemic in your mind, whereas 2006, I don't think that really would have been at the forefront. I'm sure he's kind of, poking at those kind of themes there. Yeah. But like if you wrote the same story now, I'm sure that gets addressed heavily. Like the criminal nature of pharmaceutical companies for sure. Yeah.
That would be a different book in like now in 2020. In 2020s.
Yeah. And again, it's just the fact that it's also a miniseries, so there was only so much space available. I wonder if Vaughn had 7 issues in him.
Bro, easy 10 issues.
You think?
I could see that. I would like to see more of this Strange. Like in Death of Doctor Strange, the most recent Doctor Strange event, we get a little bit of this character. He kind of shows up in this version, which they play around with a bit. But like, I don't know. I feel like comic book Doctor Strange is just magic Tony Stark at some points. Like,
so I totally agree with that. I really love, to the surprise of no one, the way that Doctor Strange was characterized by Jonathan Hickman during New Avengers
you like Hickman?
and that stuff. Yeah, big shot. But even in Bendis's New Avengers, Bendis doesn't get a lot of credit for the way that Doctor Strange would go on to be used. But I think throughout all of that stuff, you see the picture of a character who not even at this point because of hubris, but just because of the fact that he's been post-human for so long, who sits above everybody. He's literally not on the same plane of existence as you, but he looks like you. And I like that version of Doctor Strange who's above it. You know what I'm saying? And just not even arrogant, just doesn't even have human emotion like that. I like the version of Doctor Strange who feels like he's the one who can stop the incursions, during New Avengers. That version feels distinct within the MCU. There are no other characters like that. The version of Doctor Strange that is Tony Stark, which is sort of similar to this one, that version of Doctor Strange, there are a few characters like that. So I feel like he loses his identity and his uniqueness whenever they put him in situations that are beneath him.
It sounds something familiar to how you like the characterization for Dream, for Morpheus, because
Right.
you had that actual separation of humanity. You could see that character was on an actual other plane of existence and behaved as such. Yeah, I dig that. That sounds cool. That sounds like a different aspect to a snarky, sometimes self-absorbed Doctor Strange. That would be an interesting way to view him and characterize him. Is that in that New Avengers run? Is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
little bit,
yeah, Jonathan Hickman deals with aspects of that, especially which I think we read for a book club, but it was a few years ago now. But his sort of taking on even like demonic forces, which you see them showing a version of in the trailers for Doctor Strange. You see him like taking on these demons and stuff like that. Like that's the stuff he's willing to do and sacrifice his humanity to save Earth. That's just the version I like. That's the version I prefer.
I don't know. I kind of like Vincent Price, Doctor Strange. There's a soft spot in my heart for that kind of iteration of the character.
That's fair. I think it's cool that there are different,
Yeah.
valid versions. No one talks about this, but Doctor Strange is malleable. Like
For sure.
this is cool. This, like, whatever you think about the story, whatever I think about the story, I think this version of Doctor Strange is interesting. I wouldn't be mad if there was another volume, like you said, Tyler.
I mean, also if we're doing modern day BKV and Marcos Martin, they could do a Night Nurse miniseries and I'll still read that. Like it's a creative
Yeah,
team.
they could
I'll
do
follow
a
into
Nico
the
Demas.
dirt.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe. I was gonna say have Dave Chappelle write it, but he's in hot water too, so maybe not. let's not talk about that one.
I think if Dave Chappelle wanted to write a comic book, Marvel would just bring the Brinks truck with money. They wouldn't talk about the money. They would just pay him all of it. And whatever the script was fine.
They have a space on the X-Men desk, so might as well.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I'm sure he could write the shit out of Black
I'm
Panther.
good. I'm good. Okay, I'll do a mini on that.
He's been to Africa. He did
there for a
spend
while.
time.
He
Yeah,
was there
I know
for a while.
Wakanda's not Africa, but listen.
Dude was on
You know?
the Black Panther diet too. You saw when he was done with that, he was fucking swole as shit.
Yes, exactly.
I don't know how we got from Doctor Strange to Dave
Yeah,
Chappelle.
right. Sorry. Yeah.
All right, guys. I mean, do you guys have any closing thoughts? I think we're kind of good here. I mean, I've kind of said it's 5 issues. It's not Saga's 50 issues that we read earlier.
This is good. This is a fun book. I think it's not without its flaws. It is as we've said, a version of Doctor Strange that is interesting to see. Provides you that perspective if you're not familiar with the character, or if you are, additional perspective. Because we've been reading, or at least because I've been reading the current Strange series, Death of Doctor Strange, I had a lot of fun with. Jed McKay's on that right now, and it's been really good. This is a welcome breath of fresh air because it's different. It's different but the same character, and that's nice to be able to see over time alongside two creators that I really really enjoy, and their iteration is fun. At the end of the day, is fun and is something that you should probably check out, whether or not the characterization is something you're familiar with.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's fun. I think it's a very easy to read, easy to follow story that gives you everything you need to know about Doctor Strange. If you're wanting something to read to go into Multiverse of Madness, I would say that this probably doesn't thematically link, but as a general picture of Doctor Strange, this is absolutely perfect for that. It's not the deepest story. It doesn't go as far as I would like it to go in any direction at all. I don't think anything really reaches the heights that it could have. And I think that Brian K. Vaughan of 2022 would write this very differently. And I think that that would be a product that I would enjoy a lot more, which is a credit to him because he's gotten a lot better. I just think that this is something that he could have tackled better now. As a Doctor Strange story, I think this is a must read. I'm glad I read it because it was a gap, but I don't feel like I got anything tremendous out of this. But I enjoyed it. It's fun.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's a fair and fun, like a gift book. Does that make sense?
Yes, I would give this to people.
You went to the movies with your friend. You saw Multiverse of Madness, and like he doesn't read comics, or she don't read comics, but they're interested. This is like a good, like a baby's first Doctor Strange book. You know what I mean? Like something that anyone can really read, and I think anyone can really enjoy. I can't see anyone not really enjoying this. It's maybe not loving it, but like it's a really good, solid, fun book.
Yeah.
And Kale? Oh.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow, okay. Great stuff, Kale. Kale was great this episode.
So pleasant.
Yeah. Verbose and somehow concise.
Yeah. Not cranky either. It was pretty surprising.
Yeah.
Remarkable.
I do gotta say before we close out. Mm-hmm. Why do they keep wanting to pour the cure for cancer in the drain? Why do they hit the water supply? Like I feel like there's another way to destroy that besides just it's not. I mean, I guess maybe the analogy there is pills down the drain. But I got an issue with that. I was like, all right, I guess the alligators are gonna be perfectly good.
Yep. Get in the water supply. We drink that.
Yeah. Morlocks would be great after that.
Oh. Wait, what would happen with the Morlocks?
What would happen?
Somebody should have picked up on that. Yeah, Morlocks got healed or something like that.
Well, mutations aren't diseases, guys. Let's not be mutant-phobic.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Fair. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah,
keeping us in check. I appreciate that.
You got it.
But yeah, that's the book club. That's the first. It's the last normal book club of Comics Pals 1.0. Is that
2.0?
I guess I'd be 2.0. So yeah. I guess 2.5 is coming up for the book club. A little more listener viewer engagement and choice. Don't hurt us, guys. That's all I'm gonna say. Don't.
Should we say that we hold the final decision rights on what you can suggest, but
I mean, yeah, if they're saying go. Yeah, if they're saying read, I don't know, Sonic the Hedgehog from 1995, I would say yes, but I'm sure you guys would be like, no, I'm not going to read that. I'm not doing a book club on that.
Wait, hold on. I heard that Sonic the Hedgehog stuff is actually pretty good.
Yeah, there's like genocidal war in Sonic the Hedgehog comics. It's wild, man.
Wild. Yeah, I'll read a Sonic the Hedgehog comic. What I'm not going to read is like Cerebus, which is like 1,000 issues or whatever the hell.
Oh, you mean
I'm not going to read something like that.
I mean, you could see somebody's slow decline into becoming an incel if you read Cerebus.
I could see that if I go to 4chan.
Yep, it's true. It's a quick decline there, though. So, Kale, where can people find you?
Okay. Wow.
Oh, thank you. Was that at Toto and Toe on Instagram and Twitter? Okay, thanks, Kale. Good job. Marco, where can people
You can follow me at Mr. Marco Animoto on Instagram and Twitter. I like Doctor Strange. This is good, and so has the current series. So if you're interested in more, come find me, come talk to me, and read Death of Doctor Strange and Strange at the moment.
Strange, as Sean said.
Strange.
Yes, absolutely.
Sean, you got anything?
I also love Doctor Strange. Can't wait for Multiverse of Madness. I think that movie is going to be phenomenal. Please do not spoil it for me. There's stuff already floating around that I really don't want to talk about or see. So please be a cool person and don't spoil for anybody. Let's try to look out for each other with this one. We didn't look out for each other with Spider-Man, and I'm a factor. I know, but let's do it right with Doctor Strange, please. Please and thank you. Peace and love. Thank you.
And for me, you can follow me at the Tyler Olson on Instagram and Twitter, and I don't know what to talk about. I don't know. I'm just waiting for some ride footage from this new Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster to come out. Apparently, Terry Crews is a Nova Corps member in this ride.
What?
That feels right.
So I was like, all right, yeah, I'm kind of interested. I want to see what a James Gunn written Terry Crews Nova Corps member is like. So
That's funny.
I'm pretty excited for that because I think it's still in continuity. So technically, Terry Crews has his MCU role.
There you go.
That's awesome.
There you go. But yeah, we'll see you next time for the book club. It'll be a little different, but we'll see you.
Take care, guys.
What's the cat for HKO? See you next month.
There we go.